Okay. Okay. Now, as Jan mentioned, she saw my post on Facebook, and this is something I did maybe a few weeks back, a month ago or so, and this is what I wrote. People think I've had a bad year, but I disagree. Has it been painful? Yes. Challenging? Absolutely. Heartbreaking at times? 100%, without a doubt. But pain doesn't equal bad. And loss doesn't mean God isn't good or has abandoned me. From the outside, it looked like everything was falling apart in my life. My marriage was over 34 years. I lost my home, my stability. Even my dog just passed away a month ago. So a lot. And yes, those losses were very real and very heartbreaking to me. But what God was doing on the inside of me, that was real too. He was building. He was building strength, peace, clarity, resilience, direction, and compassion. Those things don't come from a life of ease. We always have a choice. We could either become a victim of our circumstances, or we could be transformed through them. So this season didn't break me, it's building me. Because the hardest seasons often lay the strongest foundations. So if you're walking through something heavy right now, don't rush out of it. Don't rush out of it. God may be doing his deepest, most refining work in you. And sometimes everything begins with one conversation, one decision, one step in the right direction. And if you're feeling stuck in your circumstances right now, I want to encourage you, just talk to someone. Talk to the Lord, talk to a friend, talk to a counselor. And if you want to talk to me, I'm here. Reach out to me. But that's what I shared, and I meant every word of it from the bottom of my heart. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share that. I wasn't expecting to do that. So
thanks, because I'm not on Facebook, so I appreciate
yeah.
it. Actually, I'm on there, but I don't do anything with it.
Yeah. Well, I guess with that, I'll just move right into what I'm here to talk about. And first off, before I get started, I tend to be a little soft-spoken. I'm trying to project because I want y'all to be able to hear me. So if at any point you can't hear me, just go like this, and then I'll get the clue, and I'll try to speak up a little bit more. But oops, I got the wrong one. Wrong slide. Here we go. Okay, this is the beginning. All right. So my name again is Marie Keesee. I have been a member here at Bentry for 15 years, and there's 3 of those years that I worked here on staff. And so, but it's a real honor to be here to talk to all of you. I actually know most of you, which is so cool. I know and love you all. There's a few here that I'm not familiar with, but I hope to get to know you as we go. But for those of you who don't know me, I want to share just a little bit about myself. I've got the opportunity to work in this financial space, and I'm learning as I go, as I talk to people. Really, people, they're kind of tend to be stuck because of the things they don't know, things they didn't learn growing up or in school or from their parents. They just kind of get through life and they just try to make it. But what I found is this: most people are doing the best they can, okay? But they never were really taught how money works. And I just want to share my heart about this for a minute, because the reason I started this journey isn't about money, isn't about finances. I'm not a money person at all. I've never have been, but God called me into this field, which I find very interesting and funny. I was like, why, Lord? I don't understand why this field. because I'm a very people person, and I'm very ministry minded and mission minded. But what I've come to realize is that God has a calling on my life to help guide people into his peace and freedom. And part of that goes into the financial realm. There's a lot of people that are stuck, feel stressed and fear, and it's just a really, confusing place to be. So I realized that God doesn't just care about our spiritual life, he cares about everything that goes on here on earth, how we manage what we've been given, how we prepare, how we protect, how we plan. And honestly, that's part of why I'm so honored to be here to share with you today, because this is actually the first time I'm speaking here at Bentry on this topic. So y'all are my first people to listen to me talk about this.
We're the first blessed people.
First blessed. Thank you, Kathy. That's very sweet. But this is a topic that's really, I'm very passionate about, and so because of the eternal aspect of it, so I'm really thankful to be able to share it amongst brothers and sisters that have the same heart and mindset that I do. Because I'm going to be sharing a lot about scripture and God's, perspective and things. Because if not, what's the point? So let's see. Because of what I've seen and talking to people and seeing how stuck they are, I didn't want to just sit back and watch that anymore. I wanted to become part of the solution. So that's why I teach people about how money works. That's why I'm here today. So for me, this became about helping people find peace instead of pressure, clarity instead of confusion, and confidence instead of fear. Today is not about anything complicated. This is going to be very simple, and it's probably all stuff you already know, but hopefully it'll be good reminders for you, especially in this season of life that you're in. And if you're listening today and something stands out to you, like let's say you think of one of your children or grandchildren or a loved one that you're like, oh, this person needs to hear this, or maybe there's a concept I talk about later, that little handout in front of you is for you to jot down notes. I hope everybody has a pen or a pencil, something that they can write with. If not, maybe Jan, if you could grab something. Raise your hand if you need a pen or pencil. But this is just consider this like your little worksheet. So if something gets sparked where you're like, I want to look into that later, you won't remember later unless you write it down, most likely. If you're anything like me, I need to write it down. So as Jan mentioned, and as you all know, our church is going through a series on heaven, which this is the timing of this talk here today is very timely, because this is the whole emphasis of my talk, is about eternity and being heavenly minded. And so if we focus on eternity, I think we'll find that changes how we see everything, every aspect of our life. So a lot of my talk will be focused on this eternal perspective, like I mentioned. So let's make this personal for a minute. When you think of eternity, what feelings well up inside of you? Think for just a moment about eternity. It's a heavy topic. What feelings do you find are coming to you? Do you feel a sense of peace? Or do you feel stressed or a little uncertain, a little fearful about maybe not being ready or not knowing what, maybe you're afraid to die. There's a lot of people that are afraid to die, and that's very normal, common fear. So wherever you're at in that spectrum, it's okay. It's normal. These are human feelings God gave us. But I want to bring this down to earth for just a minute and say, by this stage in all of our lives, we've made some mistakes financially. right? Who has not made a mistake financially in their whole life? Joey has not. Good job, Joey. That's Valley's little doggy.
Simple life.
Yes, very simple life. Doesn't have to worry about finances. I'm a little jealous about that. Yeah. But the truth is, some of those mistakes we made, we cannot go back and fix them. They're permanent. Like, that's the way it is. But here's the encouraging part. I didn't come to depress you. There's an encouraging part to this. We can still make wise decisions today. We can pass that wisdom on to the next generation. We could do something different today than what we've ever done. You're one decision away from that. Even if you're in the middle of a mess, one decision away from going a different route. So sometimes I encourage people to do something simple, which is write a letter that starts with, "Dear younger me." Has anyone ever done that before? Write a little letter to themselves? No? It could be quite a reflective exercise. But what would you say if you wrote a letter to yourself, to younger you? Would you warn yourself about certain things that you know is coming down the pike? Would you do things differently and warn yourself about that? Would you say, you're on the right track, keep going, don't give up? What would you say to yourself? Because one of the greatest gifts we can give to those who go behind us is helping them avoid the mistakes that we made. And we can't do that unless we reflect a little bit on those mistakes. So I hope this exercise helps you have a little kindness and grace to yourself, because if we're honest, we all were doing the best we could at the time. Our younger us, we did not know what we know today, so don't judge yourself based on what you know today. There's grace there, and God says there's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. So just rest in that there's grace. But here's another encouraging part, that we're not finished yet. We still, no matter where we are today, we've still been entrusted with things in our life, like time, like influence on other people. We've been given resources that we can use. So just make sure that the decisions that you're making today will make your future self say thank you to yourself. So I don't know if you thought about that before. But what's interesting about the Bible is Jesus actually talked about money more than he did about many other topics. Because, why do you think that is? Why did Jesus talk about money so much?
Because he knew we'd make it a god.
Yeah, we'd make it an idol in our life, yes. And also, I think he knows that how we handle money reveals what's happening in our hearts. Right? The verse that says, wherever your treasure is, there your heart will be also. They're connected. I don't know why, or I don't know how, but where our treasure is, our heart's there. And I think I see some nodding heads, like you've experienced that probably in your life. Well, the Bible also tells us that one day we will give an account for how we lived this life and how we stewarded what we're given. So, sorry. Now, here's why this matters. Because it means that what we're doing now is not just about today, it's about shaping the legacy that we leave. It's impacting the people we love, and it carries eternal significance. God is not asking us to be perfect, okay? Don't think that you need to do this perfectly. All he's doing is asking us to be faithful. And when you really look at it, what is faithfulness? It's actually much simpler than we think. So it really comes down to a few key areas what we're going to dive into here. So let's look at this from the standpoint of the particular season of life that you all are in right now. You can't, again, go back and do things over again. You can only start from today, start right here. So this may not be a season of building anymore, but it can absolutely be a season of being intentional. So let's break that down into 3 simple pillars. And this is what we're going to talk about the rest of my session. Stewardship, protection, and legacy. Stewardship, protection, and legacy. The first pillar is stewardship. So this is really the foundation for everything else, because before we talk about protecting money or passing it on, we have to understand this. It was never really ours to begin with. What we have is not ours. The Bible tells us everything belongs to God, and we're simply managing what He's entrusted to us. Psalm 24:1 says, "The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. The world and all the people belong to Him." Think about that. Everything that you have, even the clothes on your body, the nice fancy shoes you got on, everything, it belongs to Him. Like, what a concept. So this is the foundation of how we view everything else here, all these 3 pillars. Jesus actually gives a great picture of this stewardship principle in the parable of the talents. So we're all familiar with the story, but I'd love for you to don't gloss over the story because you're very familiar with it. I want you to take a look at it with some fresh eyes in this season of life that you're in. So Matthew 25:14-30 says, "The kingdom of heaven is like a man that going out on a long journey. He called his servants together and entrusted his money to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, each according to their ability. Then he left. The servant who'd received 5 went and put the money to work. He gained 5 more. He doubled the talents. The one with 2 did the same and gained 2 more. But the one who received 1, what did he do?
Buried it.
He buried
He
it.
hid it so he wouldn't lose it.
Yikes, he didn't want to lose it. Yes, he dug the hole in the ground, hid the master's money. And after a long time, the master came back and he asked them to give an account. The one with 5 came forward and said, "Master, you gave me 5 and I've earned 5 more." The master said, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a little and I'll put you in charge of much more. And then he said, "Come and share your master's happiness." The one with 2 came forward, said the same thing. "Master, you gave me 2 and I've earned 2 more." And the master said the same thing. "Well done, good and faithful servant." Then the one with the 1 came forward and said, "Master, I was afraid, so I hid your money in the ground. But here it is, here's what belongs to you." The master replied, and this is a little weighty, "You wicked and lazy servant. Why didn't you at least put the money in the bank so it could earn something?" Wow, that's heavy. That's heavy. And then he says something very important. "To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given. But to those who do nothing, even what they have will be taken away." Notice, what did the 3rd servant say was his reason for not investing his share?
Fear.
Fear.
Yep.
Yes. Fear. Let that land for a second. How many of us have had fear as it relates to our resources, our money? I believe fear keeps many Christians today from stewarding faithfully. This is why I'm so passionate about this. Not because I'm perfect at this. I'm speaking to myself as well. We all are on this journey together. But what's really interesting about this story is that the servants who were faithful didn't just hold on to what they had, that they were given. They put it to work and multiplied it.
Invested.
They invested it. Doesn't give the details about that, but it says that they multiplied it. They doubled it. And that raises a simple question for us. What does it actually look like to do that in real life? Like, that's something the Bible doesn't touch on, but it's something I'm going to touch on. This is a simple concept that I teach about every day. It's called the Rule of 72. Who here has ever heard of the Rule of 72? All right, two of you? Okay.
Three, but
Three?
Just from you recently.
Right. Okay, so I talked to Valley, she learned about this. So the Rule of 72, I won't go into a huge amount of detail on this, but I'm gonna just refer to this briefly. This is a very simple equation that helps you know how long it will take for your money to double, just like the talents that these servants invested. So you're gonna take the number 72 and divide it by whatever interest rate your money is sitting in. And that equals time for your money to double. Simple math equation, okay? So in this example, if you have your money sitting in 1%, which is probably more than most savings accounts will offer you, right? Much more. It's gonna take you 72 years, a whole lifetime, just to double your money one time. So in this example, all of these numbers here, they all deposited $10,000 one time and just watched it grow. At 1%, it took a whole lifetime to grow. Now, at 6%, let's jump up here, 6%, it only took 12 years to double the money. So you've got not just one double, but 1, 2, 3 doubles. That's quite a bit better, wouldn't you say? But let's just jump up to 12%. Let's look at that. Your money is doubling. If it's sitting in 12% interest, it's doubling every 6 years. So it's not 1, 2, 3 times doubling. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times doubling. And if you give it one more double, you're up to $1.2 million just from 10,000. Yes.
And you know where we can get 12%.
I was just gonna say, has anybody educated the banks that this is what they should be helping us with?
The banks know this and they don't offer this.
Exactly.
We don't, we steer people away from banks, and I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. But yes, we can definitely tell you where it's 12% and better, where you can be putting your money. So that can be a discussion on another time. But I wanted you to understand this concept of how money gets multiplied. So this is a really important concept to grasp. Everybody needs to know this. And what's so cool is this shows the power of compound interest. And Albert Einstein even talked about this. He called this concept the 8th wonder of the world. Albert Einstein. So this has been around for many, many moons. But it's just magical. It's not magic, it's math. It's math. Which we are not necessarily taught this rate of math in school. So small differences in the rate of interest over time can create very big outcomes. And here's the part that most people don't realize. This principle doesn't just work for you, it actually works against you. And that's exactly how things like credit card debt grow. They grow slowly at first, and then faster than people expect, and it balloons. I'm sure some of us in this room have experienced that, the crushing blow of credit card debt and how it just accumulates. Does anyone here know what the average interest rate on a credit card is these days?
20 to 25%.
Bingo. You got
That's
it.
terrible.
It is
I know, it's horrible. It's
terrible.
horrible. And there used to be a time when we could write off interest on our taxes. Be a good time to do it now.
Yeah, now we have to claim it as income, and we have to pay taxes on that. So yeah, no fun. But so 20 to 25%, definitely that's the average right now, and sometimes even higher depending on what card you get. So if we go back to that same principle, that means debt can double in about 3 to 4 years at that rate. Think about that. Same principle, different direction. So who's making money whenever we're dealing with a bank?
The The bank.
The bank is making money off of our money, which, let's stop that.
That's not
That's
what
why
God wants.
the casino is going to come out on top.
Of course, yeah, it's almost like they're a casino in a way. Definitely gambling your money away, but, if you're putting your money in the bank, you're not going to be building wealth, I can promise you that. So this isn't just about numbers, it's really about understanding what we've been given and making sure that it's working in a wise and strategic way. So this still matters, even though you're not in a building phase anymore, you don't have like your whole lifetime ahead of you to really invest in these things. That's okay. It still matters because we're still called to be faithful with what we have today. Okay, so you can still do something. So this ties to something really important. I'm going to get into the spiritual aspect. And how am I doing on time? Like, what time do y'all end? Doing good? Okay. I just want to be mindful of that. I'm a little over halfway through here, but so the church, in church we're often taught to give generously, right? And bless others and, give and do all that, which is great. It's very biblical to give. But something that's not normally taught in churches or anywhere is how to generate wealth so that you can be a generous giver. That's something that really hit me recently. I was like, wait a second, I never learned how to generate wealth, so but I've always felt a burden and a desire to give generously, just not the ability to do it. That's frustrating. I'm like, God, I want to, I just don't know how. So I'm so grateful he's teaching me how to do that, and I want to share that with y'all. And here's the kicker. It is obvious, really, you can't give what you don't have. And you can't multiply your money if you don't understand how it works. So maybe a simple question for you to reflect on today is what I have right now today working for me, or is it working against me? Think about that for just a minute. So again, it's not about going back and being perfect, it's about becoming more aware. So that way we can be faithful with what we have today, and we really start understanding stewardship. So, all right, because the truth is we live in a world where we are constantly being influenced to spend money, okay? It's just everywhere. We're surrounded by ads and messages and opportunities to buy things with a click of a button. It's so easy to buy things, and honestly it's kind of fun. It feels good. It's we might do it because we're bored. We might be trying to fill a space maybe in our heart that we're just feeling a little lost or restless, and we want to make that purchase. Maybe it feels good in the moment, or maybe we're trying to impress people that we don't even like we're trying to impress them or to keep up with them. Whatever the reasons, this is what we do. And if we're not careful, more and more of what we've been given will slowly get redirected toward things we really don't need, and they'll end up in a garbage heap one day. So instead of being used for something more meaningful, we like building stability or creating a legacy for our family, we just waste it away. Because every dollar we spend is a reflection of what we value. Remember where our treasure is, there our heart is. So when we see ourselves as stewards, it causes us to pause a little bit and ask, is this the best use of what God has entrusted to me? And when we become more intentional about how we spend, it puts us in a better position to let what we have actually grow and be passed on to our family. So not only does stewardship affect how our money grows, but it also shapes how we protect it. So we're going to move into the second pillar, protection. Because it doesn't matter how well something grows if it's not protected along the way. Yes, Val?
Before we move on to stewardship, I would like to read something that, because it's in the book of Genesis, I've read it many times. When you start the new year, you wanna start the right Bible reading, so, but this year it struck me, and that's why my word for the year is steward. This is 41. It was verse 41 that stopped me in my tracks, but I'm gonna start in 47.
So it's Genesis, what chapter?
41, Genesis 41.
Genesis
What
41.
verse?
Verse 47 says, during the 7 years of abundance, the land produced outstanding harvest. Joseph gathered all the excess food in the land of Egypt during the 7 years and put it in the cities. He put food in every city from the fields around it. This one, verse 49, is what stopped me. So Joseph stored up grain in such abundance, like the sand of the sea, that he stopped measuring it because it was beyond measure.
Wow.
Okay, so the Lord blessed Joseph. There was too much to measure for the thin times, for the hard times. And he stopped counting. So he knows he's gotta be a good steward of it, and he knows there was too much to be a steward over because he couldn't even count it. But every grain of food was a blessing. How many grains of food do we have as a blessing in our life?
Wow.
Abundance.
Okay? And that just stopped me because we have, and it's not just money, like you said earlier, it's time, and it's prayer, and it's to name something. But this just stuck with me. He stopped measuring it because it was beyond measure.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
That was 49.
49.
So Genesis 44 is
Genesis
49.
49, 47.
Thank you for sharing that and making that connection. That's so true, and that was, you know, Joseph didn't just, bye y'all.
We have an appointment at 2:30, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay, yes.
I
Well,
feel,
Cheated?
oh, but you got your.
You put your contact information on here.
my contact info
On the
is
back?
on
Oh,
the
there you go.
back of the sheet,
Yeah.
and I'm also recording this if, you know, I was recording it for my mom, but I'm happy to, share the link for it if anybody wants to, if you have to leave early or whatever, so. Oh, no problem. All right, so I'll continue on just so, for the interest of time. So let's talk honestly for a minute. There are things in life that we can't control, like Joseph faced a famine, although God gave him a heads up on that and gave him wisdom to know how to deal with it. Sometimes life just throws us a loop and we get medical expenses or unexpected health issues or fall and we're stuck. It's just unplanned. And for many people in this stage of life, these aren't just what if scenarios. They are really what you're walking through currently.
Long-term care is the biggest one.
Long-term care, and that's what I'm talking about next, so thank you for bringing that up. So one of the most common concerns I hear is this: what if I outlive my money? That's a real question because people are living longer than ever before, and that means that our resources need to last longer. Some people run out of money, and that's a terrible place to be in. Another common concern is, what if something happens to me and I'm no longer able to take care of myself? This hits heavy. The reality is most people won't escape needing help at some point. The statistics are about 7 out of 10 of us will someday need some form of long-term care. That's a huge amount. So 3/4 of us, almost 3/4. And so if there's not a plan in place, this responsibility falls on the family. And that can create a lot of pressure for that family, emotionally, physically, financially, not because they don't love you, but because they're just not ready for that. They may not be prepared for that. So one of the things I often encourage people to look into is having some form of long-term care planning in place. For some people that might be separate coverage. Others, you can actually add that onto an existing life insurance policy. It's called a rider, so you can look into that. And it's not because we expect the worst, it's just we want to be thoughtful and considerate of our loved ones, so we're not a burden on them. And then sometimes I hear, oh, retirement just isn't what I thought it was going to be. It's there's a loss of structure, a loss of routine, sometimes even a loss of purpose. But I want to encourage you here, the purpose that God has for you in your life, it transcends any earthly job that you might have done in the past, which means you still have purpose today, even if you don't have a job. So God, you have so much to share with this world, and God has a plan for you. So let's talk about what does protection actually look like in a practical sense. So let's first talk about organization. Do your loved ones know where everything is? First of all, do you know where everything is? First, first you need to know, then you need to share it with your loved ones. Your accounts, your documents, your passwords. I encourage you to get that all in place and keep it in a safe place, obviously. We don't want to have that just be posted on our refrigerator. That would be a bad idea. But this way, our family doesn't need to try to gather all this and try to figure it out in our absence, right? Conversations. So have you had the conversations that need to be had with your loved ones? Do they know your wishes? Not just financially, but personally. Simplify. This is a big one. Some of us like to collect things and have lots of collections. And I can be guilty of that as well. But there's something I've come across recently in a book called The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. Now, I know that name can sound a bit intense and morbid, but the idea behind it is actually very thoughtful. I thought that when I first read the book, I was like, this is interesting. But what it's about, it's on, all of that is on the sheet there, so you don't have to write it down. But it's about gradually simplifying your life, paring things down, going through all of your belongings now while you can, and letting go of things that are no longer needed or important for you or your kids. Not just for yourself, but as a way to make things easier for your family for when you're no longer here. I actually did this myself during my recent transition when I went through my divorce, and I knew I was leaving our home, and I had a lot of stuff. A lot of keepsakes. I'm a very sentimental person, so I had a lot of keepsakes and papers for my kids, and just boxes of stuff, and the hobbies that I had years ago that I've never touched since, in years. And I always, you always think, well, maybe one day down the road I will do this again. Well, yeah. I was forced with the reality, okay, am I really ever going to do this again? Probably not.
My son told me, "You're someday, one day thinking, Mom, is what has this mess here." He nailed me. Psh.
You're someday,
My
one
son
day
told me that.
thinking.
Someday, one day thinking is what keeps you stuck.
Oh my, that's a very eloquent way to
He was
put that.
brilliant.
I'm gonna add that to my
All my kids are minimalists, and I don't even know what the meaning is.
Oh, wow. Well, take some lessons from that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really smart. Yeah, they're smart. So, honestly, if we do that for our family, that's one of the most loving things we can do for them. Just less complexity creates more peace. So also having a will and a trust, okay? If you don't have this in place, I encourage you to look into this. It's not a one-size-fits-all type of thing. It's really, these are tools. It depends on what your situation is, what's important to you, what are your goals. And this is something you would have a conversation with a legal professional that does wills and trusts. I'm not that person, so I can't answer those questions, but I can steer you in the right direction. I have people that I trust, and I can be happy to share that with you. If that's something you've been meaning to do, then let this be your gentle nudging to take that step. And while we're on that topic, if you do have a will or a trust, double check and make sure that everything is up to date. Make sure that your beneficiaries are currently who you would want them to be. Even after I got divorced and I thought I was just getting my life back in order and everything, the last thing that I remembered to switch over, and it hasn't been that much time, fortunately, but the last thing I remembered, it was my beneficiaries on my life insurance policies. I was like, oh, I should change that. So I called my life insurance companies right away and I said, here's my new beneficiaries. So just make sure that that's up to date. Because if it's not, yeah, you'll have somebody that you don't really intend receiving all of your inheritance or whatever. So I'm happy, again, to connect you with someone if you need help with that. And when all those things are in place, when things are organized and those conversations can be had or have been had, that's when we move into something even deeper, legacy. So our legacy, when we say that word, legacy, a lot of people immediately think about the money we pass down, right? But legacy is so much more than that. Yes, it can include finances, but it's also what we leave behind in the lives of the people we love, like not just money, but peace, clarity, preparation, getting your house in order. Those are all parts of legacy. It's making things easier for them. So it's removing confusion and reducing stress, which is huge, a way to show them love. So let me ask you a really important question at this point. If something happened to you tomorrow, God forbid, but if something happened, would your family know what to do? Think about that. Would they know where things are, who to call, what your wishes are? Of course, they will be feeling grief over your passing, obviously. But would they feel a sense of peace, or would they be overwhelmed?
Somewhere in between.
Trying somewhere in between. So maybe that's a gentle nudge to say, maybe there's something I can do to kind of move in that direction. So yeah, when they're dealing with that loss, we don't want them to have to sort through all of our stuff and try to figure it all out. That's the last thing that we would want to leave with them. So really, leaving a lasting legacy is love. That's love. So think about that. Ultimately, all of this points back to something much deeper, which Jesus said, bringing it back to spiritual. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Because at the end of the day, true peace is not found in what we have or in what we've done. It's found in who we trust.
Amen.
And I'll just share something personal. I recently read a book called Imagine Heaven by Jordan Rayner. And this is a book that Libin recommended during one of his messages of several months ago, I think. And I grabbed it right away and read it, and it gave such a vivid picture of what eternity with God could be like. Based on 1,000 near-death experience testimonials of people that had near-death experiences. It was fascinating. But it honestly heightened my sense of excitement and anticipation for heaven and what it's going to be like when I get there. So I just have nothing but hope, and it really brightened everything. Even every Sunday when I come here and worship, I think about that. I think about that image in my mind of what it will be one day to stand before Jesus and be worshiping him with all of your heart and just, laying your crowns before him. It's just such an amazing thought. So what's really cool is the author of that book, Imagine Heaven, he's coming here to to Bentry on this coming Sunday. And he's talking about this topic.
Boy, Living brings in the good ones.
He does, I'll tell you what, he
Wow,
knows
that'll be
him, I don't know if
great.
he's friends. Yeah, so don't miss it, come on Sunday and listen. Maybe get the book and start reading it to prepare your heart for that. It is so good. But so this just brings us right back to what really matters. When we trust in him and we are faithful with what he's given us, we create a legacy that brings peace now and peace for the people that we love in the future. So instead of trying to do everything at once, I just want to encourage you to do one thing. Just take one step this week. And if you want to mark it on your paper in a big circle, which, out of the things that I've written on your little handout, things that we've gone through, what's one thing you could do to start moving in that direction? Maybe it's organizing something you've been putting off, or like getting a will or a trust, or maybe it's having a conversation that needs to be had, or maybe starting to get, purge some things. It doesn't have to be everything, just one step. So,
Marie,
yes,
let me just give you a brief example.
yes, let's hear it, Diane.
Okay, a member of our family, they said that they did not know what their in-laws, even if they'd made a will or anything, they'd never mentioned it, and nobody wanted to ask them. Well, finally, they did ask, and the couple that are my age brought out a piece of paper, just a blank sheet of paper, and there were two things written on it. Half of their thing goes to this child, and the other half goes to this child. That was their will, and they got it,
Notarized?
two witnesses and notarized. Okay, that's a hologram will, which does not require witnesses, but they thought that it was kind of bad because the witnesses had died. Well, if they're not required, it doesn't matter. But that is nothing but creating complete havoc between two children. They're not gonna know what in the world,
What does it mean?
where is everything anyway, where are their accounts, or, I mean, that is, I couldn't believe it. And these people have a lot of money.
Wow.
And, other things, they have a house.
Oh, thank you for bringing that example up.
Oh,
Need to give her their phone number.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so
And her phone number.
thoughtless, careless,
Yeah.
Yes.
insensitive to your children.
Well, you're right, and honestly, we don't think of it in those terms. I think what we don't know, we don't know. Maybe they weren't intentionally being thoughtless, right? I'm gonna just look at the benefit, give them the benefit of the doubt.
Well, thoughtless is just don't even think about it.
Well, it's like, a lot of people go through life Hakuna Matata, it's.
They don't wanna think about their death.
No, they don't wanna think
You know,
about their
that-
death.
Once you're comfortable with the thought of dying, then you can be very proactive here.
Absolutely.
But if you're kind of scared of death and not wanna think about it, you don't wanna deal with any of that.
That's right, and you think
And
you have
we're all
all
gonna
the
die,
time
so
in
you
the
shouldn't be
world.
afraid of it.
We don't know when that last day will be, right? We think, oh, I'll do that later. Well, sometimes later doesn't come.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's
It's
at
too
any
late.
age, that's not just us old people.
Mhm. Any
Even
age.
30-year-olds can go, and their
Yes.
kids, the wife doesn't know where anything is,
Oh, believe me.
It's so important to do this throughout our lives.
Yes, so if you all have children, grandchildren, that, have this conversation with them. If they don't have these things in place, life insurance, literally, I've heard horror stories of families that don't have life insurance in place, and they're young, they've got young families, and one of the spouses gets in a car wreck, dies, and they're just,
Devastated.
they're devastated. They have to do a GoFundMe, the spouse has to go to, try to earn enough money to take care of the kid. It's just a mess. So definitely, we want everybody to be protected. That's what this is all about. And
Well, I wrote a letter to my son, and I've listed everything that I could think of.
good for
where
you,
my-
Diana. Yeah.
you know, where my money is and this and that, but
Yeah.
there's always something new that I think, uh-oh, I forgot to tell them this.
Mhm.
you know.
Yes.
So I'm constantly updating.
Updating for
Right.
sure.
That's a really good point, and that's one great reason why it's good to have a legal professional that's helping you walk through that. Because anytime there's a change, you just tell them, they update everything, right? And then that way you know that everything is up to date. Cause if it's just,
Well, they're gonna know where all your papers are. For example, I have
Right.
a life insurance policy. If my son didn't know about it at all,
exactly,
he wouldn't even know to look for it. And then if I
Exactly.
told him just off the cuff, I have a life insurance policy,
yeah,
he wouldn't know where it is, you know.
right, that's
Like,
part
so
of
I
getting
told him,
organized,
And
yes,
all my important papers are kept in a certain place.
perfect,
And
you're
just
doing
last
great.
week, he said, Mom, I don't even know where you keep up. Okay, I've showed him before,
Good job,
but he didn't retain it, and I said, well, the kids know, but I'll show you.
yeah,
Those kids know exactly where
Good.
grandma's stuff is.
good,
But I took him back there, and I showed him
yeah,
where my papers are, where this is, where I keep just some cash, you know, that I just, if I need some, I just
yeah,
dip into that. And,
right,
you know, where keys to different things, all of that is
Yeah.
important.
that's beautiful.
But now that I'm getting older, I think his ears are perked, you know, maybe I should know where these things
Yeah,
are.
it's like, ooh, this is pretty important. Thank you
I
for
went through all
sharing
that
that.
with my daughter, and then she moved to the Netherlands.
Oh.
And my son's in Washington, but I'm getting it all in the.
Oh, they'll come back.
Yeah.
They said they'll come in a crisis.
Right,
so.
well, I'm wrapping it up here, I'm all finished, so that was my contact
Thank you.
information, and this is the last, I'm just gonna leave you with one final thought, okay? And I hope you glean this from today, if nothing else. At the end of the day, it's not about perfection, it's about faithfulness, okay? It's about being able to look back and know that we did our best with what we were given. So that one day we can hear God say, well done, good and faithful servant. And so that concludes my time.
Very well done. Sorry the crowd thinned out, but it was awesome.
Yes, and thank you, that's okay. Thank you so much.
Your mother's gonna